I don't like them liars. Look at me in my face and tell me the truth. Look, Nay, me and you ain't together. This room right here, this is the room. This is the room where it all goes down. And sometimes I buy a bitch a pair of shoes and throw them out and keep the shoes. By this time, I really believed that Phil actually could predict a #1 song, and I thought that was fantastic. I'm still working on your first million seller, he teased, and it's almost finished. If you're a real nice girl, I might let you come over to my house to hear it. I'd never been in a penthouse before, Phil's or anyone else's. So naturally, when I walked in, I couldn't resist peeking into all the closets and poking around behind all the closed doors. I opened one door and was surprised to find a bedroom where 6 or 7 pairs of women's shoes were scattered all over the floor. When I asked Phil who they belonged to, he nearly turned pink. Will you stop snooping around where you don't belong? Pause. Wait a minute, Phil. Hold the fuck on. We ain't just suck face in the damn studio the other day. Second, is these shoes right here, do they belong to you? Do you be secretly walking around with lady shoes on? Phil said, those my sister's shoes. And mind your business. Girl, please. Will you stop snooping around where you don't belong? He snapped. I think it was the first time I ever saw Phil lose his temper. Okay, honey, I said, I'm sorry. He must have noticed the hurt look in my eyes because he softened his tone immediately. Those are my sister Shirley's shoes, he explained. She stays here sometimes when she comes to New York. He better be lucky it ain't during the time of the internet, because I would Wikipedia the fuck out of him. Who is Phil Spector's sister? If I ain't see a bitch named Shirley in the search results, then we gonna have a concern, because now you're lying to me. I don't like them liars. Look at me in my face and tell me the truth. Look, Nay, me and you ain't together. This room right here, this is the room. This is the room where it all goes down. And sometimes I buy a bitch a pair of shoes and throw them out and keep the shoes. Okay? I like the honesty. The honesty makes me, respect you. But don't sit here and tell me all kinds of lies and then get all aggressive with me about it. Now, he said, changing the subject, why don't you go into the other bedroom and watch TV? Phil was still very hush-hush about our relationship at that point, and he didn't want his writing partners to know I was there. Hold on, pause. So y'all in a relationship, and he got a problem with you asking questions about girls' shoes in the bedroom? The dirtiest dick I've ever had in my life was the Texan. I was looking at Why Do Fools Fall in Love with Lorenz Tate, Vivica Fox, Halle Berry, and the lady they say is my twin. They say Layla Vachon or Sanaa Lathan is my celebrity twins. And you know that Frankie Lyman was the dirtiest DICK in the world. Now, that was a true DDMF. Let me tell you something. The Texan equated that. You ask your partner straight up a question, and they get aggressive with you, especially if they've been caught in some BS, baby, you got a hell of an expedition in front of you. You hear me? Because what they do is they try to bully you so that you are scared to inquire about anything else crazy you see. Girl, I could find a pair of girls' panties on the couch next to me, pick them up and be like, what the fuck is this? Next minute I know he in my face. What are you doing? This is my house. Until I stood up on his ass. And I said, look, if we going to do something, we going to do it. Because he always would hover over me. Child, I wasn't scared because I knew if he tried it, I was going to kick that fucking pacemaker through his back. I stood up on his ass and I let him know you wasn't going to be able to bully me into backing down on the bullshit that I saw. I could hear all three of them loud and clear. Be my baby, they sang. Be my baby now. I thought it was catchy, and I couldn't help wondering if that was what a #1 record sounded like. Phil and I rehearsed that song for weeks before he would let me fly out to California to record it. Since I was going to sing lead, Phil wouldn't need Estelle and Nadra to do their backgrounds until later. So they stayed behind in New York for a few more weeks. When I landed in California, Phil picked me up at the airport in his big limousine and drove me straight to Gold Star Studios. It took about 3 days to record just my vocals for Be My Baby. I was so shy that I do all my vocal rehearsals in the studio's ladies' room because I loved the sound I got in there. And between doing my makeup and teasing my hair, I practically lived in there anyway. Recording at Gold Star in those days was like one big party. The biggest fun of all came when it was time to lay down the background vocals because Phil always invited everyone in the whole studio to join in. If you were standing around and could carry a tune, you were a background singer in Phil's wall of sound. And everybody Phil knew seemed to show up the day we did the backgrounds for Be My Baby. Darlene Love was there, and we had Fanita James from The Blossoms, Bobby Sheen from Bobby B. Sox and the Blue Jeans, Nino Tempo, Sonny Bono, who was Phil's gopher in those days, and Sonny's girlfriend, who was a gawky teenager named Cher. And you say, what? How the hell did Sonny Bono get Cher as Phil Spector's gopher? How did that happen? But you know what they say about them small men. They sure do got a lot of big packages. But Sonny the Bono, oh my God, how did he get Cher? I have to be honest, the first time I saw Cher, I thought she was a hooker. It was in a hotel room where I was supposed to meet Phil for rehearsal. She and Sonny were already in the room sitting at the piano when I walked in. And when I saw this skinny young kid with her long black hair and thick mascara, I just assumed she was a call girl from the hotel. Then Sonny introduced her as his girlfriend, and I was so embarrassed. I just had to laugh. After a few minutes, I could tell that she was really just a sweet kid, and we got to be friends. We would meet in the bathroom at Gold Star to tease our hair. Sitting over the sink, we would share black eyeliner and gossip. We were about the same age, and we both had stars in our eyes, so it was only natural that we would hit it off. I had fun with Darlene and Fanita and the other girls who sang for Phil, but I never felt like I could talk to them the way I did with Cher. I was probably closer to her than anyone outside of my family in those days. Wow. And as time went on, Cher and I began to see that we had a lot more in common than just bangs and makeup. Sonny always acted extremely jealous of Cher. And when I got out to California, I started to notice that Phil could get pretty possessive of me too. Neither of them liked for us to go off on our own, but Phil seemed to trust Cher, so she and I spent a lot of time together while Phil and Sonny worked in the studio. We'd go shopping together, or we'd spend the day at the movies. Other days we'd just drive around in Cher's little red MG looking at all the strange sights of Hollywood. And when I look back at the Sonny and Cher show, because you know that was one of my favorites, I love Cher. I did. Like, she was just so large and beautiful. And in reality, she wasn't even that tall. She's probably like the same height as me, but she was just so ethnic. And I always was like, what is she doing with him? Why would she choose that man? He was the vehicle, if you know what I'm saying. He was the vehicle. And sometimes you got to ride around in a raggedy bucket. Not that Sonny Bono is a raggedy bucket. I'm not saying that. Chaz, I don't want no problems from you, sir. I'm just saying. I'm going to move forward past that. As soon as we finished Be My Baby, I flew right back to New York, where the Ronettes were scheduled to start a 2-month tour of the East Coast with Joey D and the Starlighters. One of our first stops was Wildwood, New Jersey. I'll always remember that town because that was where we heard Be My Baby for the first time. It was one of those moments that changes your life forever. Phil was as surprised as we were to see the record taking off so fast, or so he said. He told us the Ronettes would have to leave the tour immediately so we could get back to New York to promote the record. Of course, Joey D wasn't very happy to hear that, but he didn't want to stand in our way, so he finally did let us out of the tour. Be My Baby hit the charts in the last week of August 1963. When we showed up at the Brooklyn Fox for our first show after Be My Baby, we took one look at the marquee and had to pinch ourselves. There was our name spelled out in letters 3 feet tall. The Ronettes. A few weeks later, Phil came backstage after one of our shows and told us he had a surprise. He was with this guy who wore a 3-piece suit. Phil introduced the guy by saying, "This is one of my accountants." Then he added a little too casually, "Oh, and I think he's got something for you girls." Then this accountant reached into his briefcase, pulled out an envelope, and handed it to me. Inside was a check for $14,000. It was our first royalty check from sales of Be My Baby. Hold on. Y'all got split that 3 ways? Not bad for a few weeks' work, huh? Ronnie Spector was like a few weeks' work. Do you know how long we've been working at this shiz? Then I handed it to my mother. It's not that I wasn't thrilled to get it. I was. That check was more money than any of us had ever seen in one piece at one time. But Mom took care of all our financial matters, so naturally the check went straight to her. She deposited the money when we got paid, and she wrote the checks whenever we needed something. I guess we weren't very sophisticated financially, but money was never anything we worried about. As long as we had money for lipstick or a new dress when we wanted one, we were rich. Be My Baby turned out to be a huge hit. It hit #1 on the Cash Box Top 100 and #2 in Billboard. It was one of those songs the DJ loved to play, and they're still playing it today. That record is a rock and roll classic, and no matter how many horrible things I went through later, at least I can look back and say I made a record that's going to be around long after all of us are dead. And that's a nice feeling. Spooky, but nice. Let me tell you what I saw on the David Letterman show. Browsing around YouTube, okay, because I like to look for interviews and things like that. As a teenager, I loved all genres of music. Child, I listened to Duran Duran, David Bowie, Rick Springfield, of course, Culture Club. I also listened to the dude, Eddie Money. Y'all, why didn't nobody tell me Eddie Money was saying, just like Ronnie say, be my little baby. Oh, 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 oh. Why y'all ain't tell me that was a Ronnie Spector? Take me home tonight. I don't let you go to see the light. Take me home tonight. Listen, honey, just like Ronnie said, be my little baby. Why y'all ain't tell me that? I didn't even realize what he was saying until after I started researching Ronnie Spector. Child, one night she was at a show, right, at the Apollo, all right? Remember, not too long ago, she was sitting across the street in her mama's Donut King Diner. Is that right? King Donuts, whatever it is, trying to get her mammy to sleep with one of the owners of the Apollo so they can get on stage at amateur night. They didn't do well. But now she there at the Apollo, okay? And there's a whole lot of celebrities there. In fact, they go on after Patti LaBelle. She pays homage to Patti LaBelle, talking about how extreme and dynamic her voice is. From where I sat, I could hear the applause from Patti LaBelle booming through the theater like a thunderstorm. But instead of making me more nervous, the applause actually seemed to calm me down. A few seconds later, Nadra came running down the stairs looking for me. Come on, girl, she said. We're on. By the fall of 1963, our lives were turned upside down. All the things I'd ever dreamed about were finally coming true. We had appeared on Dick Clark's American Bandstand. People from all over the world were calling to ask for interviews with us. And best of all, you couldn't turn on your radio without hearing Be My Baby.
All right.